They spat at her feet and called her cursed. Her own mother locked the door. But what the village didn't know was that the child she carried would lead her to a man worth billions, and she would become the one person he trusted with his empire. This is the story of Amara. If you enjoy thrilling African folktales, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and tell us where you are watching from. Your support means the world to us. In the village of Kwara, nestled between the red clay hills of West Africa, tradition was law. The elders' words were gospel. The drums spoke the language of ancestors. And shame was a stain that no amount of river water could wash away. Amara was once the village's pride. At 23, she was known for her sharp mind. She could calculate harvest yields faster than the village accountant, resolve disputes with wisdom beyond her years, and speak 3 languages fluently. The elders said she had the gift of sight, the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. But when she returned from the city 6 months pregnant, with no husband and no explanation, everything changed. The father? She refused to name him. Some whispered he was a married man. Others claimed he was a spirit from the forest who had tricked her. But Amara's silence was deliberate, because the truth was far more dangerous than any rumor. The village chief, a man whose authority had never been questioned, gave the order himself. She is no longer our daughter. Cast her out before the ancestors cast us all. Her mother wept but did not intervene. Her father, once her greatest defender, turned his face to the wall. Her younger sisters were forbidden from speaking her name. On a morning when the harmattan winds blew cold and unforgiving, Amara wrapped her few belongings in a faded cloth, placed her hand on her swollen belly, and walked through the village gates. Not one person said goodbye. But as she reached the edge of the forest, old Mama Kande, the village's oldest woman, half blind and ignored by most, pressed something into her palm. A small cowrie shell. The ancestors may be silent now, she whispered, but they are watching. Your child carries a destiny that will shake kingdoms. Amara didn't understand those words then, but she would, soon. The city of Lagos swallowed Amara whole. Millions of people, yet she had never felt more alone. She found shelter in a cramped room in Ajegule, a neighborhood where survival was a daily negotiation with fate. She sold pure water sachets under the scorching sun, 9 months pregnant, swollen feet, hunger gnawing at her insides. But Amara refused to break. Every naira she earned, she saved, because she had made a promise to her unborn child. We will not just survive, we will rise. Then came the night that changed everything. Amara went into labor in that tiny room. No midwife, no family. Just her and the pain that felt like it would split her in 2. For 12 hours, she fought. And when her daughter finally emerged, screaming with the fury of a warrior, Amara looked into those eyes and saw something that terrified and thrilled her at once. The baby had a birthmark, 3 lines on her right shoulder blade, forming a pattern that looked exactly like the Adinkra symbol for wisdom and knowledge. The same mark Mama Kande had, according to village legend. Zinab, Amara whispered, naming her daughter, wise and beautiful one. 3 months later, Amara's money ran out. She had applied to 57 jobs, 57 rejections. No one wanted a woman with a baby strapped to her back and no formal credentials beyond secondary school. Desperation led her to Victoria Island, the gleaming heart of Lagos, where Billionaire's towers scraped the sky. She had heard that rich people sometimes needed help with their homes, their children, anything. She stood outside the Echo Hotel, watching Range Rovers and Mercedes glide past, when she heard the commotion. A crowd had gathered. In the center, a man in an expensive agbada was shouting at his phone. Papers scattered everywhere, blown by the wind. His assistants scrambled uselessly, panic in their eyes. "The deal is falling apart," he roared. $500 million because no one can find the clause in this contract. Where is my lawyer? Amara didn't think. She saw one of the papers land near her feet. She picked it up. Her eyes scanned the dense legal text, and there it was, clear as day, the clause everyone was looking for. She stepped forward. Sir. The man turned. Chief Obi Nwafor. She recognized him from newspapers. One of West Africa's richest men. Oil, real estate, telecommunications. A billionaire whose temper was as legendary as his wealth. Who are you? He snapped. Someone who found what you're looking for, Amara said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. Clause 7.3, subsection B, page 47. It states that the termination provision only applies if the offshore assets are declared before the fiscal quarter ends, which isn't for another 2 weeks. You still have time. The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Chief Obi snatched the paper from her hand. His eyes widened. He turned to his lawyer, who had just arrived. Is this true? The lawyer looked at the document, his face draining of color. Yes, Chief. She's absolutely right. Chief Obi looked at Amara as if truly seeing her for the first time. At her fitted wrapper, at baby Zainab on her back, at the intelligence burning in her eyes. What's your name? Amara. Amara, you just saved me $500 million. He paused, calculating. Where did you learn to read contracts like that? I taught myself, sir. I've always been good with documents, with finding patterns where others see chaos. Chief Obi didn't offer her charity. He offered her a test. Come to my office tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. I'm going to give you 10 of the most complex business documents my company is handling. If you can analyze them and find issues my 50 loyalty missed, I'll consider hiring you. If you fail, we never speak again. That night, Amara didn't sleep. She fed Zainab, borrowed a neighbor's phone to research Chief Obi's company, and prepared her mind for battle. The next morning, she arrived at Nwafor Towers, a gleaming skyscraper that made her feel impossibly small. The receptionist looked at her with barely concealed disgust. Security almost didn't let her through, but Chief Obi had left her name at the desk. They led her to a conference room. 10 massive folders, contracts, agreements, partnership deals, acquisition documents, the kind of paperwork that would take trained lawyers days to process. You have 6 hours, Chief Obi's assistant said coldly. Amara spread baby Zainab on a blanket in the corner of the room with her few toys. She rolled up her sleeves and she began to read. Something extraordinary happened then. Something Amara had always been able to do but never understood. Her mind worked differently. She could see patterns, connections, risks hidden in plain sight. It was as if the numbers and clauses spoke to her in a language only she could hear. 4 hours later, she had filled 12 pages with notes. When Chief Obi entered the conference room, he expected to find her overwhelmed, maybe crying, probably gone. Instead, he found Amara nursing her daughter with one hand, her notes spread before her with the other. I'm finished, she said simply. He didn't believe her. He sat down skeptical and began to read her analysis. The first document, she had identified a currency clause that would have cost his company $40 million in exchange rate losses. The second, a partnership agreement where the other party had buried a clause giving them control of intellectual property. The third, fourth, fifth, with each document, Chief Obi's expression changed from skepticism to shock to something like awe. How? He finally whispered. How did you learn this? Amara set down her pen and looked at him with eyes that had seen too much for someone so young. Chief, when your village throws you away, when you're pregnant and alone in a city that doesn't care if you live or die, you learn to see things others miss. You learn that survival depends on being smarter, faster, more thorough than everyone else. I didn't go to university. I couldn't afford it, but I spent every naira I could spare on used textbooks. I studied in the library while selling pure water. I taught myself contract law, business analysis, financial modeling, because I knew that knowledge was the only thing no one could take from me. My daughter deserves a mother who can give her the world, so I made myself into someone who could do that. Chief Obi was silent for a long moment. Then he asked the question that would change both their lives. Why did your village reject you, Amara? What really happened? She could have lied, should have, perhaps, but something in his eyes told her that this man valued truth above all else. The father of my child is a man from my village, a powerful man, a married man. She took a breath. He's the son of our chief. When I refused to terminate the pregnancy and threatened to reveal his identity, his family paid the elders to cast me out. They called me cursed, said I seduced him, spread rumors that my child was a demon's offspring. They tried to bury me. Instead, they freed me. Chief Obi leaned back in his chair, studying this woman who carried both devastation and dignity in equal measure. I built my first business with 5,000 naira and a dream, he said quietly. Everyone told me I would fail. The banks laughed at me. My own family called me foolish. I understand what it means to be underestimated, Amara. Here is my offer. You will start as my special analyst. Your salary will be 200,000 naira per month. I see your eyes. Yes, I said 200,000. You will review every major deal that crosses my desk. You will attend meetings with billionaires and politicians. You will have an office, a computer, and a nanny for Zainab during work hours. But understand this. I will demand excellence. I will push you harder than anyone has ever pushed you. Because I see what you are. Raw, extraordinary talent that needs refining. Do we have an agreement? Amara looked at her daughter, then back at Chief Obi. Tears she had held back for months finally spilled. We have an agreement, Chief. Good. And Amara, stop calling me Chief. In this office, you call me Obi. We are partners now, not master and servant. Your mind is too valuable for bowing. The first 6 months tested Amara in ways she never imagined. She worked 16-hour days. She studied international business law at night. She memorized the names and histories of every major player in West African commerce. She learned to read people as skillfully as she read contracts. And she was brilliant. Within 3 months, she had saved Nwafo Holdings over 200 million naira by identifying fraudulent suppliers. Within 5 months, she had restructured a failing subsidiary that everyone wanted to shut down. Instead, it became profitable. But it wasn't just her intellect that set her apart, it was her integrity. One day, a powerful senator offered Amara 10 million naira to accidentally overlook certain details in a government contract review. It was more money than she had seen in her entire life. Money that could secure Zainab's future, buy them a real home, erase years of struggle. She recorded the conversation and reported it directly to Obi. The senator tried to destroy her. He spread rumors. He threatened her. He sent people to intimidate her. But Obi stood between her and the storm. Touch her, he told the senator publicly, and I will ensure that every corrupt deal you've ever made becomes front-page news. The senator backed down. That's when Obi knew. Amara wasn't just talented, she was incorruptible, a rarity in a world where everyone had a price. 2 years after that fateful meeting outside the Echo Hotel, Obi called Amara into his office. I'm restructuring the company, he said. I'm creating a new position, Chief Strategy Officer. This person will be my second in command, the person who advises me on every major decision, the one who knows every secret of this empire. I'm offering that position to you. Amara stared at him, speechless. But sir, I'm 27 years old. I have no degree. You are the smartest person I've ever worked with, Obi interrupted. You are honest in a world of thieves. You are fearless when others cower. You see 10 moves ahead when my Harvard-educated executives can barely see one. I don't care about your age or your diploma. I care about results. And Amara, you deliver miracles. As Chief Strategy Officer, Amara traveled across Africa negotiating deals worth hundreds of millions of naira. She wore designer clothes now, drove a Mercedes, lived in a beautiful home in Ikoyi. Little Zainab attended the best school in Lagos. But success brought visibility, and visibility brought danger. 3 years after Amara's rise, news reached her village. Amara, the cursed one, the disgraced one, was now one of the most powerful women in Nigerian business. The village chief, the same man who had ordered her exile, sent a delegation to Lagos. They arrived at her office in traditional attire, carrying kola nuts and palm wine, the symbols of reconciliation.
Our daughter,
The eldest elder said with a practiced smile. "We have come to bring you home. We realize now that the ancestors were testing us. You were never cursed, you were blessed. Come back to Kwara. We will throw a great feast. We will celebrate your achievements. You will do nothing," Amara said, her voice cold as harmattan wind. "You cast me out when I needed you most. You called my daughter a demon's child. You spat on me, turned me into a cautionary tale for young girls who dared to make mistakes. Now that I'm successful, now that I have money and power, suddenly you remember I'm your daughter. Suddenly the ancestors have spoken." The elders shifted uncomfortably. They had expected gratitude, perhaps tears of joy. Not this. "We made a mistake," one began. "You made a choice," Amara corrected, "and choices have consequences. I will not come back to Kwara. I will not pretend that your rejection didn't break something in me. But I will tell you this. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry your poison in my heart." But the village elder's visit was just the beginning of Amara's problems. Someone had been watching her rise with growing resentment. Someone who had everything to lose if Amara ever revealed his identity as Zainab's father. Chike Okoro, now the chief of Kwara village, having inherited his father's position, was a man who had built his reputation on righteousness and tradition. If it became known that he had abandoned Amara and his own daughter, his authority would crumble. So he decided to destroy Amara before she could destroy him. He hired private investigators. He spread whispers in Lagos's business circles that Amara had slept her way to the top, that she was using witchcraft, that her success was unnatural for someone of her background. But worse, he found lawyers who discovered a technicality. Because Amara had never formally declared Zainab's father, there was a clause in Nigerian law that could be used to challenge Zainab's citizenship, and therefore Amara's residency status in Lagos. It was a stretch. A desperate, vicious stretch. But with the right judge, the right bribe, the right pressure, Chike filed a lawsuit claiming that Amara had committed fraud on official documents. The goal wasn't to win. It was to humiliate her, to drag her through the courts, to destroy her reputation. When Amara received the legal notice, her hands trembled, not with fear but with rage. "He thinks he can silence me now, just like he silenced me then," she told Obi. "He thinks because he's a chief, because he has traditional authority, I'll be too afraid to fight back." "Then fight back," Obi said simply. "Amara, I have the best lawyers in this country. I have connections to every judge, every official. One call from me and this lawsuit disappears. Say the word." Amara was silent for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "No, Obi, not like that. If you make this disappear, then I'm no better than him, using power and connections to hide the truth. I won't win that way." "Then how will you win?" Obi asked. Amara smiled, a smile that reminded him of why he had trusted this woman with his empire. "By telling the truth, all of it, in court, in public, with evidence and witnesses. I've been silent for 6 years because I was afraid, because I was ashamed. But I'm not that girl anymore. Chike wants a battle, I'll give him a war. And when I'm done, everyone will know exactly what kind of man hides behind that chief's title. But more than that, I want every woman who has been shamed, every mother who has been cast out, every girl who has been told she is cursed for being human. I want them to see that silence protects our oppressors, but truth sets us free." The courtroom was packed. Journalists filled every seat. Cameras waited outside. The case had become a sensation. The billionaire's advisor versus the traditional chief. Chike's lawyers were vicious. They painted Amara as a gold digger, a liar, a woman who had trapped a young man and now wanted to destroy his honorable life. But Amara's legal team, paid for by Obi but led by Amara's own strategy, had done their homework. They brought forward Mama Kande, the old woman from the village who testified about the night Chike's family paid the elders to cast Amara out. They produced bank records showing payments from Chike's family to village officials shortly before Amara's exile. They presented DNA evidence Amara had quietly collected years ago, proving beyond doubts that Chike was Zainab's father. And then Amara herself took the stand. "I was 19 years old," Amara said, her voice steady and clear. "Chike was 22. We were in love, or I thought we were. He promised to marry me after his father retired, and he took over as chief. He said tradition required him to marry someone from a founding family first, but that I would be his second wife, his true wife. I believed him. I trusted him. And when I became pregnant, I was happy, because I thought our future was secure. But Chike was already engaged to the daughter of a wealthy family from Abuja. My pregnancy threatened everything: his inheritance, his reputation, his political ambitions. He gave me money and told me to handle it. When I refused, when I said I would keep my baby, he turned cold. He said if I ever revealed he was the father, he would make sure no one believed me. He said he would destroy my family's name in the village, and he did. He used his family's power to have me cast out, called cursed, treated like a demon. I kept silent for 6 years, not because I was ashamed of my daughter, but because I was afraid. Afraid of his power, his connections, his ability to hurt me. But I'm not afraid anymore." Chike's lawyer stood up, his final card ready to play. "Mrs. Amara," he said with a sneer, "isn't it true that you're only bringing this case now because you want money? That you're using this child as a weapon to extort my client?" Amara looked at Chike, really looked at him, for the first time in years. The man who had loved her, the man who had betrayed her, the man who was Zainab's father. "I don't want your client's money," she said quietly. "I make more in a month than he makes in a year. I don't want his name for my daughter. She already has a name and she knows who she is. What I want is for every person in this courtroom, every person watching this trial, to understand something. When powerful men make mistakes, they call it youthful indiscretion. When women make the same mistake, they are called cursed. When men abandon their children, it's a private family matter. When women are abandoned, they are called failures. I'm here to say, no more. The shame belongs to those who abandon, not to those who are abandoned. The curse is on those who cast out the vulnerable, not on those who survive despite it. Your Honor, I'm not asking for anything from Chief Chike Okoro. This case was his attempt to silence me. I'm simply asking that the truth be recorded, that my daughter know her history, and that the next young woman who finds herself in my position knows that her story doesn't have to end in silence." The courtroom erupted in applause. The judge banged his gavel, but he was smiling. 3 weeks later, the judge dismissed all of Chike's claims and awarded a landmark judgment that would change Nigerian family law, strengthening protections for single mothers and their children. Today, Amara is more than Chief Obinwafo's most trusted advisor. She is one of the most respected business minds in West Africa. She sits on the board of 5 major companies. She has launched a foundation that provides legal aid and business training to single mothers across Nigeria. And little Zainab, now 9 years old, goes to the office with her mother sometimes, watching as Amara negotiates deals worth billions, advises presidents and governors, commands respect from men 3 times her age. "Mama," Zainab asked recently, "did you always know you would be important?" Amara smiled and pulled her daughter close. "No, baby, I didn't know I would be important, but I always knew I would survive. And survival, when you do it with dignity and courage, eventually becomes something more powerful than anyone can imagine. It becomes legacy." As for Chike, he lost his position as village chief after the trial. The elders removed him for bringing shame to Kwara. Last anyone heard, he had moved to Kaduna, far from the village that once revered him. And the village of Kwara? They tried several more times to claim Amara as their own. to boast about their daughter's success. But Amara never went back. Some bridges, once burned, are not meant to be rebuilt. Some rejections become the foundations for something far greater than acceptance ever could have been. Amara's story teaches us something profound. The people who cast you out may think they're ending your story, but sometimes rejection is just redirection. Sometimes being pushed out of one door forces you to build your own house. The village saw a cursed woman. Chief OBC saw a brilliant mind. The question is, who decides your worth? Those who reject you when you're down, or those who recognize your value when everyone else is blind? Amara decided. She decided that her daughter would never know shame, that her story would be one of triumph, not tragedy, that the greatest revenge against those who tried to bury her would be to bloom anyway, and bloom so magnificently that the whole world would see. But here's what keeps people awake at night, wondering about Amara's story. What if Mama Kande's prophecy wasn't complete? What if the destiny she spoke of, the one that would shake kingdoms, hasn't fully come to pass yet? What if Zainab's birthmark, those 3 lines forming the symbol of wisdom and knowledge, means something more than anyone have discovered? What if the village of Kwara rejected Amara not because of tradition or shame, but because someone knew, someone saw what was coming and tried to stop it before it began? And here's the question that haunts everyone who knows the full story. Why did Chike really try to destroy Amara after all those years? Was it just about protecting his reputation? Or did he know something about Zainab? Something about what that child would become? Something that threatened more than just his position as village chief? Because there are whispers now, whispers that the old gods of Kwara are watching, that the ancestors who were said to curse Amara were actually protecting her, preparing her for something bigger than anyone imagined. And if you look closely at the deals Amara has negotiated, the companies she's transformed, the lives she's changed, you start to see a pattern. A pattern that looks remarkably like those 3 lines on Zainab's shoulder. A pattern that suggests this story, this incredible journey from village outcast to Billionaire's most trusted advisor, might just be the beginning of something far more extraordinary. Something that will indeed shake kingdoms, just as Mama Kandi promised. But that's a story for another time. If you enjoyed this African folktale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and share your thoughts on Amara's journey. Your support means everything to us. And remember, in the words of our ancestors, the seed that is buried doesn't die, it grows. Until next time, may your rejected seeds become mighty trees.